Hello everyone and welcome to this month's Lunch Learn session. We'll be covering smart features. My name is John Greer. I'm the Customer Experience Manager here at OfficerReports.com. And why are smart features important? Well, they allow you to receive alerts when things don't happen the way you expect them to. And we'll show you how to adjust the smart features for tour tracking and clocking in and out so that you can get you set certain requirements and ensure that your officers are not clocking out early or leaving early or leaving later than expected, as well as set up the tour stops so that you're alerted when X amount of tour stops are not done within a specified time period. And I'll show you how to override the smart feature settings directly on the schedule. So you can do this by a per shift basis, which I'll show you here in just a moment. If you have any questions during this Lunch Learn presentation, please go ahead and click on the second green icon, which would be a chat icon, which will put out the chat window as you see. Select my name, John Greer, from the list of participants and type away. That way your question comes directly to me. Again, we're covering the smart features, so let's go ahead and go to the live demonstration here. So this is, again, the page that you see after you log into Officer Reports. In order to enable smart features for a site, you have to go to Setup, Sites, and select the site that you want to edit. You can also do this when you're adding a site. So we'll go ahead and edit a site here and go to Smart Feature Settings. And these here are already enabled, so we'll go ahead and select another site. Let's do 3. Okay. And as you see here, we've got a couple of things under Smart Features. We've got clock in only by phone. So if you check the landline only box and enter 2 phone numbers, they'll have to call a specified number and give a specified employee ID, and that can be found in the support center. And the clock in, clock out option for that site will be removed from the site menu. Generally, this is useful if you want to ensure, even though we do the geofencing, they have to be located within that site to clock in or out. But if you want them to use, say, a security office phone to clock in and out, then you can set that up there. Check for tour tracker activity. If we check this box here, and let's say we're at an office location and your officers have to do a tour around every 60 minutes, and they've got to start and end the front desk, so they'll scan the QR code for the front desk when they start the tour, go all the way around, scan however many QR codes there are for that site, or however many you want them to hit within that hour, and then return to the front desk and scan it again, kind of as an indication they're done. We would have the minimum tour scans at, say, 11. Let's say there's 10 tour stops in total, but remember they're hitting that front desk scan twice, and that counts as a unique stop. So under unique stop scanned, we'll go ahead and enter 10. So every 60 minutes, they've essentially got to do a tour round from the front desk, and let's say that site has a total of 10 tour stops, move around the area, and then scan the front desk again, indicating they're back at that area. So these settings would be every 60 minutes between checks, and it starts at the beginning of your schedule. So you have to have the schedule, at least a blank schedule, in the scheduling option, or in the scheduler, which I'll show you here in just a minute, for smart features to function. If we had the smart features running 24/7, then not attached to, say, a shift or anything that can indicate an officer is supposed to be on site, for those of you that did not do operations at a location 24/7, you would be receiving alerts outside of when your officers are actually there. So again, a schedule has to be set up in order to use the smart features. And for check for clock in, essentially this is a range. So we'll go ahead and enable that. If you don't want them to start early, or maybe you allow them 5 minutes to clock in 5 minutes before the start of the shift, we'll go ahead and enter 5 here. If you do not want them late at all, you would enter 0. So it checks 5 minutes before the schedule starts, and when the shift is actually supposed to start. And if that officer is not clocked in, the one you specify on the schedule, then it'll send you an alert to the site supervisors and to you as an administrator. If you've got the alert set up to be sent to you yourself as an administrator as well, which you can contact technical support to do. Check for clock out is kind of the same thing. You don't want them leaving early, so we'll put the 0 in that box. But perhaps they're filling out an incident report or they're dealing with an incident on site. A lot of companies would give a little leeway, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, in order for this alert to not fire off in case an officer is actually still on site working. If you leave this, of course, too long, then it could potentially be that the officer just had forgotten to clock out before they left the site. So generally, I recommend 15 minutes. If after 15 minutes they still haven't clocked out, you'll receive that email alert saying that no one's clocked out and this person's still clocked in. And you can give that officer a call and say, hey, do you need any assistance? What's going on? And they could potentially say 2 things. Yes, I'm dealing with an incident right now. I'll clock out when I'm done. Or 2, oops, I forgot to clock out. In which case, you would have to edit their time clock entry. So again, we'll go over this real quick. The landline only is for when you want your officers to clock in specifically via a certain phone number. So you would give the phone number of that phone that's calling in. Again, that information is on the support center as to what number they have to dial and how that works specifically. Check for torch tracker scan activity. Minutes between checks, again, 60 minutes. So this would be at the start of the shift. It would begin a 60-minute, essentially every hour check. So if they clock in or the shift starts at 8, if they don't, 8 a.m., if they don't do the 11 torso scans, 2 on the front desk, as an example, in an office type setting, then you would be alerted at 9 o'clock. If they do hit all the tour stops, so again, an office setting came in at that front desk twice, with the minimum total scans being 11 and minimum unique being 10, then you will not receive an alert. Checking for clock in, if they clock in before 5 minutes or after the shift begins at, say, 8 o'clock in the morning, if they clock in at 7:54 or they don't clock in at 8 o'clock and they clock in 8:02, you will receive an email alert. If you don't receive an email alert, then everything was running fine and to the results here that you, or the settings here you specified. Check for clock out. So if an officer clocks out early, let's say their shift ends at 5. If they clock out at 4:59, you'll receive an alert. If they clock out at 5:14, 5:12, 5:10, any time between these 2 times, so 5 p.m. and 5:15 p.m., you will not receive an alert. But at 5:16, if they haven't clocked out, you will receive an alert, and that's why I was here. Give them a call, see if you can help with anything, or if they just forgot to clock out. Go ahead and update that. And then we'll go ahead and go to time and attendance and schedule. Now, because we have a few sites here, we'll go ahead and filter it. So we'll go ahead and show filters and select the site that we're working at for the scheduling. As you see here, I already have some of these set up. We'll go ahead and delete this instance. And we'll delete the series actually on these so we can start clean. Simply clicking in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little X right here. You click on that, it'll ask you if you want to delete only that shift instance, so that one time you're looking at over the whole series. And as you see here, if we go through the schedule, it's all clear. So we'll go ahead and double click on a shift here. So let's say, again, it begins at 8 o'clock in the morning. And you see our smart feature settings here are already checked because we enabled them in the site first. And that's where you're supposed to do, enable them for the site and then override them if you want to on the schedule. So let's call this the AM shift, or even morning shift would do. And let's say that mornings for your officers are kind of busy. They're checking in with, you know, I guess the essential start of the day. Say it's at an office, and they're checking in the employees, making sure the employees are checking properly. They may not have time to do their tour stop, or have limited time during the day. So you could change that to every 2 hours. They've got to do unique stops, being 11, because again they're hitting that front desk twice, one to start and one to end. And the minimum unique stops are 10 as well. Check for clock in and check for clock out. Same thing, you can override that here as well. So if the morning shift, they're not able to get into the building at all because they don't have keys to the building, and that's when maybe employees start showing up. But let's say that at an office setting, there is the HR person has the keys, or another manager has keys, and maybe they're not able to get clock in on time on occasion. So at 8 o'clock, we'll go ahead and change that to maybe you don't want them clocking at all early, or you can still leave that as 5, but they're able to get into the building. And then you could possibly set that to 5 as well, because you know that in some cases, maybe that person that opens the office arrives late, and you don't want to be alerted because you know that for this specific shift that person could, again, end up late. From check for clock out, minutes before end time, and minutes after end time. So the shift, let's say, again, ends at 5 p.m. This here, maybe you don't want to change at all. So you don't have to override these on the shift every time. It could just stay what you have set up in the site options or site smart feature settings. But you can, again, override each setting besides, of course, the landline clock in. Because that would not change on a shift basis. It would end up taking, again, that clock in, clock out feature out of the site options entirely, as they're not able to clock in out via the app and using the geofencing and the geolocation. It would only be able to clock in via specific phone numbers and you can add up to 2. So we're not going to change this here, but let's say this repeats Monday through Friday. Office building, and it ends at, so we've got 8 o'clock, one to end at 5, 1700, and repeat every 1 week. So this is not a, say, bi-weekly schedule, or if you have an officer that covers this Monday through Friday 1 week and is off, and maybe covers another site another week, and another officer comes in, you do it every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, Monday through Friday, this specific officer would be set up on the schedule. But generally, if you have an officer that does this specific shift, you know, no matter what day of the week it is, but using this example as an office, Monday through Friday, this would be perfect for every 1 week for this officer and this example. And it sets an until time, so you can essentially go through here and change up when you want this series to end. If you just do it as a repeat never, then it ends up being 1 shift and you've got to enter it multiple times. That's a different lunch and learn session. So for the site, automatically select the set before that we actually double clicked on for starting the schedule at 8. So again, 8 to 5, and we'll select an officer and click save. So that series has been created, and if you go and double click on another shift, you can edit the shift instance, edit the series. You can go here and even override, let's say, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, if you wanted to go through, or maybe there's a specific day that the office has an event and that officer won't be available to do tour stop scans, so you'll either reduce it or reduce the amount of times or even turn it off for that specific shift. You can do that office settings by going, let's say this office event is on a Friday, and he'll be, that, or he or she, this officer will be doing a special event with the company, making sure everything's fine. We'll go ahead and edit the instance and simply uncheck check for tour tracking activity and click save. Now, the smart features could take anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes to kick in, depending on when you add them. So if you don't see them within an hour, recheck your smart feature settings, make sure your email address is correct. Make sure that if you've got a supervisor set up and assigned to this specific site, that they're receiving those emails. So that's essentially the setup of the smart features on a site basis, and then how to override them, again, on the schedule on a per shift basis. So if you had like a midnight shift, we could add another series of events here. Let's say I start at 11 p.m. And that overnight shift, maybe you want them to scan more tour stops. Maybe you want them to be every 30 minutes. So we'll go ahead and do an overnight shift of 11 p.m. and it would end the next day at, let's say, 7 a.m. or, yeah, we'll go ahead and end it at 7 a.m. Now, this doesn't match with our scenario of one person having the office keys. However, just to show you, we'll do overnight shift here. So, again, it starts on the 30th, ends on the 31st. Go ahead and repeat it like we did the first one, just to make it easier on us when we do the scheduling. It's set to repeat until that date. You can enter a description if you want. Officer required, let's say Jane Doe does that schedule, and we'll go ahead and click save. And before we do that, maybe every 30 minutes, again, they're supposed to do this tour track around instead of the 60 minutes we had originally set up. And we'll go ahead and save that. And as you see here, the overnight shift starts on one day, goes through another day. Starts on one day, goes through another day. And it starts on a Friday, and it's on Saturday morning. So in this case, maybe they don't actually come in on Friday at all, because it goes into Saturday and the office isn't open. We can go ahead and run that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And as you see, it ends Friday morning at 7 a.m. And we'll go ahead and move on to the question and answer phase. So again, if you had any questions or if there was something that you wanted more detail on, we'll go ahead and cover that. Click on the second green icon, which is the chat icon, in the upper middle portion of your screen. Click on my name and send me a message. We haven't received any just yet, so I don't believe we will. I didn't see any questions submitted prior to the Lunch and Learn. But we'll give you about a minute to go ahead and submit your questions. All right, I'm not showing anybody typing in any questions to me or typing in general, so we'll go ahead and move on. We do try to keep these as short as possible because, again, these are supposed to be on your lunch hour or as short as possible to give you the most impact and get down to the nitty-gritty in a short period of time. So if you need to do an online training session, if you want to dive into another feature that we haven't covered in a Lunch and Learn, or you need help setting up a specific site, maybe it's a little different than how you would normally operate at a site, there's a couple ways that you can actually set up a training session. So in the first Lunch and Learn email that you received for the Lunch and Learn session this month, there was a link to schedule an online training session. If you click that link, you'll be taken to a schedule page that allows you to select specific times when other online training sessions or other meetings are not in progress. You can't schedule for the same day, but you can certainly select a time that best fits your needs, and a customer support representative will do, like I'm doing now, a screen share with you. And in some cases, they'll even go in and have you share your screen, depending on how you like to learn and how they want to run that training session. So you can request that you share your screen, that way you go through it, and that you've got the hands-on experience with your hands-on learner. If you're a more visual person and like the person to whoever picks up from the schedule, who's ever assigned to your training session, to actually go through and just kind of visualize your questions and where you would do it. They'll be doing the screen share, and you can see where everything's at and ask your questions, ask follow-ups. We also offer it from the main site. So if you're logged in from the main site as administrator, if you click on the support menu item down in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a request training. Now, you only see this if you're a customer. If you are not currently a customer and in a trial, you'll see request a demo. That is something our sales team takes over, and it's the same process. You'll select the best time that fits your needs based off of the calendar of available appointments, and the sales team will take it from there. When you're a customer, the customer support and customer experience team takes over from there. So that's when you would be doing a request training and when you would see request training. And even from our support center, you can set up there's in the right-hand corner of the screen, there's a little sidebar with a couple topics. One of them are a couple links, one of them being schedule a training session, which again takes you to that schedule where you can select a time that best fits your needs based off available appointments. Speaking of the support center, it is a great tool for all things Officer Reports, and you can go there, get there rather, by visiting support.officerreports.net. If there's a question that you don't have an answer to and you don't think it needs an online training session, but you need to answer fairly quickly, our technical support team, which you can reach at techsupport@OfficerReports.com, they're fairly quick at answering tech support emails. So if you email them, generally response times range anywhere between 5 and 20 minutes during business hours, and after business hours, when the technical support team is at I guess more of a skeleton crew, requests may take a little longer, but they're still answered fairly quickly. We want to make sure that that experience you have is the best that it possibly can be. Now, technical support does not do phone calls, unfortunately, because everything needs to be tracked via email to make sure that if something needs to be escalated to a supervisor or our development team, it can be done and tracked quickly and easily. So all the interactions you've had with tech support during that support request are tracked, and then if escalated, then they can see whatever team is escalated to can see exactly the conversation history that you've had with them. All right. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining this week's Lunch and Learn session. It will be available on our Lunch and Learn page as a video, more than likely tomorrow. So we'll go ahead and get everything set up for you. And you can view this one and then learn more about August, so next month's training, online Lunch and Learn, and what we'll be covering then. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.